Shannon and I wrote together. She really wishes she could be here and had contemplated a lot about coming home, but it was just, she had just been home in August, so it wasn't going to work. So she and I put together this eulogy. Grandma Frida was the only biological grandparent who was consistently in our lives, and with her came Grandpa Jerry. Our maternal grandfather died when we were quite young, and we never got the chance to meet our paternal grandparents, leaving Frida and Jerry to be the only grandparents in our lives. And they were both very present, from attending soccer and basketball games and musical concerts as children, to graduations, holidays, and regular family meals. When Shannon and I worked at the winery, we could count on an almost weekly visit to the tasting room from Frida and Jerry. They would be on their way to an auction or running an errand. And they'd each come out and enjoy a glass of wine and pick up their monthly "I'm the mother of the owner" case of Harvest White. And customers would laughingly understand when we'd have to stop serving them in order to go refill our grandparents' glasses. I think they liked that we were truly a family business. The regular visits to the winery got them into trouble several times. Once when I had a soccer game and the winery was packed, Mom sent Jerry to pick me up from the game. She told him, "Oh, the keys are in the Jeep and just go ahead and take it to get Whitney." But when Jerry picked me up from the game, I had to inform him that the Jeep he was driving was not our car. And simultaneously, a customer at the winery was reporting his Jeep stolen. And Frida never cared for the pets we had at the winery. We always had a bunch of cats and dogs. But she was always a good sport about it. But if you asked her if she liked cats, she had a very unique face that she would make when she would shake her head no. I wish I could replicate it, but it was something like this. So imagine her surprise when a cat snuck into their car at the winery and they discovered it the next day and the mess that it had made all over their car. Needless to say, they returned the cat to us. And Frida never said no to a family vacation. She traveled with us on cruises in the Caribbean and to France. And I'll never forget once when we were driving to Missouri, and we all heard the crack of a can from the back seat of the van at 9 o'clock in the morning. And it was a can of Busch Light. And she was just happily enjoying the car ride on vacation, ready to wholeheartedly jump into the next adventure. I think when we questioned her about it, she also thought that there were no open container laws in Missouri. And I don't know if that's true or not. But she thought it was legal. But that was Frida on vacation. She was dancing on tables, dressed to the nines, doing whatever it was she pleased to do, just enjoying life. And it was just so normal having the two of them as part of our everyday life. And they wrapped our spouses and children into their lives too. Frida would sew things for Kyle and Alexi, like monogrammed handkerchiefs. I don't think I'd been dating Kyle long enough for me to think he deserved monogrammed handkerchiefs, but Grandma did. And they would make blankets for our grandchildren. I think all of her great-grandchildren have quilts that are treasured here and in France. Jerry loved discussing sports with Kyle and would frequently ask him when and where a game would be on TV, and Kyle would know. I don't know how, but he would always be able to find the game for Jerry. And they were always very happy to see their grandchildren and great-grandchildren. And when I would call to talk to Grandma in the last few months, which I would do a lot, I was very grateful that we had this diagnosis in a little bit of time, so we could call and chat. It wasn't sudden. But it would never take her long in a conversation for her to turn the conversation to Silas. It'd be like, "Hi, Grandma, how you doing?" And she'd be like, "I'm great, how's Silas?" She wanted to talk about him. As you can tell, I have big memories of my grandparents, but also really small ones too. When we'd catch Jerry napping on the couch, and we pointed out he was always quick to sleepily say he was only resting his eyes. And his jokes were so sly and quick that you could easily miss them. And Frida showing us how to make homemade ice cream as children. She would She wouldn't buy us the latest electronics. She would buy us sewing kits as children and teach us how to sew. And to this day, Shannon and I still repair our own clothing, and that's a skill we learned from Grandma. And she would take us garage sailing and go into Goodwill, and we'd spend time with her on weekends as children. Now, as a parent, I understand the value in sending your children to their grandparents for time. And what we didn't realize until recently is our perception shifted from childhood adoration for our kind, sweet, and ever-present grandmother to an understanding of her as a complex adult was what a special and adventurous woman Frida was. It might not seem so from her obituary or the facts of her life, where she worked, how many children she had, but in fact she was a woman who followed her heart, made the best of every situation, and took risk right up to the end, and at her side was a sturdy and ever-present Jerry.